the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon.
If you're into strength sports, you've probably heard of Caffeine and Kilos. They have a great brand, great coffee, and make some cool apparel. If you go to west.caffeineandkilos.com, you can get 10% off all of your purchases. Check out the website, show them some love, and buy some cool shit. All right, we're starting. Dave, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Wes, for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to interact with you.
It took you long enough.
Well, I was waiting for an invite. I don't just
You're lying.
wedge my way in here, even though it's my conference room and you heat it up to 106 degrees regularly with this thing.
You actually wedged your way into multiple episodes.
I have yet to watch any yet.
Even the little Spitz was made it in a couple as well.
All the kids are in the podcast.
Well, they they snuck in one. I think it was TJ's. They made a little appearance. So really, your whole family except Catherine's kind of already been on, including yourself.
Yeah, we're kind of like the COVID-19 virus who just go wherever we're not wanted, and we disrupt all kinds of things, and we just kill productivity.
That's I guess that's fair, but you're actually pretty productive with your own things. You know, you might have barged in on a couple podcasts, but I think it was in the name of Cal Strength and for the greater good, ultimately.
We do have to prioritize that at all times.
Well,
what are we going to talk about today? I'm excited.
Well, I wanted to just start with something that's very relevant and that we're doing right now, something that maybe a lot of your Cal Strength team members would appreciate, and that was kind of just to go over the new cycle.
Oh, good. I thought you were going to say erectile dysfunction.
That's also very relevant, and especially with men your age. So if you actually like to go over that first, are there any not safe sport, WADA allowed?
Supplementation?
Yeah.
No, the best way to prevent against erectile deficiency is to marry the right woman. That's what you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and then keep her in shape, whatever you do. Make sure she stays on a plan.
So how exactly do you keep a lady on a plan?
You beg and plead
first,
and then cry
second,
and then bribe.
Okay,
those are the stages.
That's
getting what you want.
That's great advice.
I'll take that to my house. When all else fails, throw a temper tantrum. Revert back to your 2-year-old self. Throw a temper tantrum. Hold your breath.
I think all men have the ability to throw a temper tantrum at any point.
I think it is 100% innate in all men. Yeah, we know how to do it.
So now that we've tackled erectile dysfunction, maybe we could do the program. So when you were writing it, what was the goal? You know, we took some time off, and it's probably weird to I don't know, to do a program on athletes that are a little bit out of shape. You know, what was the mission?
It did take me a way longer time to write this and to organize it, and I kept second guessing the entire plan, because when programming, you got to take a 30,000 foot view. You have to start working backwards from our anchor date, and then we threw another anchor date in there, and so just determining those dates and then working backwards from it. So being able to take this long-term approach to planning is always a little bit challenging. But in the case of us having the Olympics kicked a year down, I know you and I both we were emotionally and mentally ready to be in Tokyo right now and to be competing and to kind of put a finale on this chapter in our journey. And now that that's kicked over a year down, it took me some time to just mentally just get in shape to even write that stuff, and to be okay, we have a whole another year now.
Right.
How do we even account for everything that we need to do while keeping you healthy in the process, both mentally and physically? So it took a lot of time. But I think that we're in a really good position now. Somehow, I figured out how to tap into some inspiration and just, I think you and I had a bunch of good conversations about like how you were feeling, uh, what you wanted to accomplish in the near term, and then what we needed to consider in building the program. Keeping you healthy was obviously a huge priority,
Yeah.
right? Like you were a little apprehensive about like, okay, we've just done these kick ass whatever it was, 12 weeks of training, like, some of the hardest training we've ever done.
Yeah.
Your body's breaking down, like your mind is fatigued. Then we have all of this COVID thing hit, and then it's just like then the Olympics get kicked down the road, and it was I mean, I think it was hard for all of us to just re-engage. Um and I think that taking that 8 weeks off was just so critical, both for me and you.
Right. And I mean, that's we were, I guess from afar, you don't really see everything that goes into like a competition season, but
Hmm.
our past year was, 4 or 5 meets, and I didn't even compete the most. But, each meet has 6 to what, like 24 weeks of training behind
Yeah.
it. And the training's not just like going to the gym and working out. It's very focused training. So when you stay on that cycle forever, you just get beat down at the end of each one. And we didn't have time to rest, and we kind of hit we got to the Arnold, and that was about when things started getting weird. But even initially when they moved the Olympics back, we didn't jump off program right away. It was
Yeah,
just
because we didn't
just
know if we had to do. We didn't know the qualification process.
Yeah, I didn't know when the competition was going to be due, but fortunately they came out with those, and it looks like we're safe for a little while.
Yeah, I think that ultimately, the way the numbers shake out, that we're going to have to go to the Dominican Republic for the Pan Am Championships in uh, the later part of the year, and we'll have to produce a sample and probably weigh in, and that'll be done. We should have our ticket punched, but you know the climate seems like it's changing every freaking day. So like
Yeah,
new things happen, and whether it be with the IWF and everything going on with their internal struggles and all of the investigation and qualification process, or just the landscape of this virus and what it's doing to everybody's life. So I feel like I'm on edge all the time right now with, here's our plan. And we have to be prepared to change our plan at a moment's notice.
the tentative plan.
Yeah.
So it was probably, in typical cow strength fashion, we pretty much always start with an accumulation,
Hmm.
no matter how long the break was.
Hmm.
So you knew you were going to write an accumulation program. How did you go about selecting the loading that would be appropriate after an 8 week break? Because since I've moved out, in 4 weeks, or in 4 years rather, we've not taken 8 weeks
Eight
off.
weeks. Yeah.
So how did you land on the percentages you picked out?
Um, it's a good question. I mean, I literally just tried to put myself in your position and on the other athletes' positions, and just tried to select intensities and rep and set schemes that would allow you to adapt over time. So like a slow entry point. We always talk about like how reentry is so painful, whether it's joints or just muscle soreness or just like weights feel heavier. Confidence is shaken, like timing and tension are an issue. So just like trying to produce the most realistic accumulation entry point as I could, where you could kind of have success and build slowly into the program. So we started with lighter intensities across most of the exercises in week one, and then we assigned a little larger jumps in some. So just give you an opportunity to kind of adapt, and I think it's going well so far. And the one thing that I tried to really do in this first mesocycle of our accumulation phase. So mesocycle being 4 weeks. Uh, Accumulation phase is probably going to last 2 mesocycles in this training block. Uh, Tried to make sure that we stayed in touch with timing. So like specifically like overhead timing. I think that, and you can disagree with me if you if you want, but I think that the overhead timing aspect across the board sometimes when I programmed these general strength workouts in the past, the timing just got affected more than any other property. And so timing up the hands and the hips so that you're punching down into a receiving position in the snatch, you're punching down into a stable position in the jerk. Those things I've tried to put in exercises that hopefully will help you maintain good timing throughout. So
Actually, like the like putting in like the it's almost like the intro to weightlifting movements, some of them like the snatch balance, like getting that in and having like higher reps and a lot of sets of it, like you said, just to work on timing and punching down into stability. I mean, that first week, I like it just felt like the bottom position was endless because I did my tension
yeah.
is so bad. I'm not meeting bars and they're just, they're punishing me, and that's in the powers and the even the no feet snatch, the easiest one to like have bar feel. I found myself kind of all over the place. So I definitely like that was a huge highlight of this program that I think's like super beneficial after time off, like getting your feel back. Because if you just if you jump back into it and you don't have good bar feel, those bars start beating you up, man.
Yeah.
You start leaving snatches too high and trying to punch into them, or jerks. You don't have the feel for them. That's your shoulders. You're chewing into your shoulders.
Your wrist, your
yeah.
hips, your knees, everything. I mean, you're 100% right. Like bad lifting is nothing's harder on your body than just flaws in movement. So living off a spreadsheet with exercise selection and intensity selection that's not right is the recipe for disaster. The other thing is, as we came out of this 8-week cycle of GPP, you and I running around on the football field, doing hill sprints and agility ladders and hurdles. And it was awesome to watch you just be an athlete again and just be out there, just kind of moving and just like reacquainting yourself with your body, right? Like,
Yeah.
just like, oh, I know how to use this thing.
It was
Other things than just moving a barbell.
that first day I went out to the field with the guys. It was before we even started doing the more structured one. Dude, I felt like just to move my own body felt so hard and so like laborious and achy. And I was just like, what have I done to myself? And then, sure enough, a week goes by, we a little more structured with it. We start doing drills, and by the end of it, I wasn't scared to run anymore.
Yeah, you were humming on some of the sprints.
Yeah, and
charging up hills. And...
I got to the point where you had to tell me to slow down a little bit.
Yep.
First week was not the case.
No.
Come
on, start moving. Come on, yeah.
A sprightly walk was about all I had the first day on the field.
That's a walk, like halfway between a walk and a jog.
A little heel toe jog, but I mean that was actually, it ended up being a lot of fun, and it did remind me of like that I could do things other than just lift weights, and
yes.
And it kind of showed the importance of like a more comprehensive approach. Like I kind of let some things slide just as we got super hyper focused on Olympics, on weightlifting. And part of that is having competitions back to back. There's not a lot of time
just mentally exhausted
for that kind of stuff. But now that we have time, it's a good reminder that I need to jump and I need to move my body a little bit, and just shoot it. If it's bear crawls on my hands or lateral through a ladder or whatever it is, I just need to kind of keep exploring and moving around through those things just to stay healthy.
Your body, and I'm sure you've talked about this on the podcast already, but one of the things that we were doing was just some conditioning bouts, some conditioning bouts that last somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes, no longer than that. But then you found boxing, right? And so that's like a fun way to condition that doesn't feel like conditioning, and you're mentally engaged. And I think it also helps just the hand speed and just all the things we talk about with regard to punching your body down. I think the boxing has started to like have some decent transference into the movements. So I definitely hope we can keep that in on the Saturdays.
And my body feels so good after, we probably are active like 30-35 minutes, but after just moving my body around that 35 minutes, like all the achiness and soreness, especially through the upper back and traps and shoulders, it wipes it out.
Yeah. It's just a great lymphatic flush. I mean, at the end of the day. So weightlifters out there, if you're sore, if you're tired, just make sure you're getting a little bit of conditioning done. And if you've never tried boxing, it's a great way to just do something that's totally different than what
Yeah.
we do in the gym, and gives you an opportunity to work on those skills that you definitely don't get to touch very often.
We've also added there's 2 of our accessory workouts that we do on the clock now, and
Mhm.
they take about I think the shorter one's like 18 to I think the longer one might be 24 minutes. With plenty of rest on the work rest ratio, but it's just it's been good, and it kind of reminds you of like when you sweat and you get warmed up real good, how good your body actually feels.
Yeah.
You get used to just grabbing bars kind of cold and like working it out on an empty bar in the snatch, and it's not necessarily the best strategy, really.
Yeah.
Um, then I think there's probably a lot of benefits to getting out of breath a little bit, getting the blood flowing. So
And then the other byproduct of the 8 weeks off was, I mean, I think you and I were on the same page with this, but I kind of challenged you to just dial in your nutrition a bit, and you were already, I think, thinking in the same vein and working on it a little bit, and just cleaning up diet and just kind of re-engaging in like everything we know to be true about what's important for your nutrition, and how to account for that, and not falling victim to those things like, oh yeah, I got to overeat on Saturday, I got to recover, I got to
yeah,
eat big, but just having more of a structure and more discipline with the nutrition. I think that part of the tension component that you're feeling, like where you have that, like you said, which I thought was great, that bottomless squat where it's like you're punching down into, when is this thing going to tighten up?
yeah,
Well, when you lose a little belly fat and you get a little more range of motion, like
yeah.
it does stay harder. It's harder to find your tension. So I think you definitely shed some body fat, and came into this accumulation phase leaner than you have in the past. Like there's even comments on a
Yeah.
bunch of your Instagram accounts like, man, you look shredded, which I think is true. And it's awesome to watch you just like take ownership of the nutrition component.
Yeah, the time off, my mind never really leaves the gym.
Mhm.
I like working out anyways. It's just like it's a passion of mine, whether I'm a weightlifter or whatever, I'm always gonna find time for the gym. But when I've gotta get away from it some, I still like try to remember, things that make me better in the gym. So that
Mhm.
was like, you gave me the space, and that gives me time to think about my diet and where I'd been lacking. And it's so easy when you're constantly being competitive and you're thinking about training, to let things like your nutrition slide, and you just like you almost make excuses like over and over again until it just slowly slips away. And you might could even speak to this from an athlete standpoint, because you did at the end of your weightlifting career, you went up into the super category,
Mhm.
and that's not it's not an easy move. But when you're gaining weight, I think that's the easiest time to just to make excuses like,
Yeah,
I
it's
can eat
so
this ice
easy.
cream, and I need this to recover, or I got to get this weight, which is not always the case. But I definitely found myself like in this weird spot where I wasn't doing the things that I knew were right. And it was just because I made an excuse and
Yeah.
another one. And then all of a sudden it's like pizza 2 or 3 times a week, and ice cream on the weekends. You gotta get that recovery going. You know what I
Get
mean?
that nice back
Yeah.
flab
Yeah.
going.
Why do I need to buy 40 wings at the grocery store today and eat them all?
Well, we do like to eat
Recovery.
though. Like in our defense, we do like to volume eat. We're both pretty good at it too. But yeah, I mean, it's funny how just like and you and I both are the same in that, like if somebody points out that stuff, we get really defensive at first, so we don't want to then we start to rationalize it to ourselves in our brain, and we get mad at the person that points it out, and it's just one of those things like I mean, you know my story, like
Yeah.
after years and years of evidently walking around being a fat piece of shit, like I was fortunate enough to be in a bar with some girl who was we were just chatting and having fun and just joking back and forth, and she was laughing, I was laughing about some stupid witty banter nonsense, and then she goes, "What do you do for a living?" And I said, "Oh, I own a gym." And then she just fucking broke into hysterical laughter, like belly laughing. And I was like, "Oh no!" It was like the dagger. It just like, oh my! She doesn't see me as a senior international weightlifting coach. She doesn't see me as somebody who works with elite athletes. She just sees me as a fat guy that's funny. So I had to course correct that. And then I thought to myself, oh man, Wes and I are gonna end up on Ellen and Jay Leno or whoever it is, and I'm gonna be the fat coach, and people are gonna be like, man, there's that handsome athlete, all the little blonde locks with the fat coach. So I had to make a course correction, and then just like you, I realized like, shit, all this time, all I was doing is making excuses for why I couldn't lose weight or I couldn't be in shape, when really reality, it's all bullshit.
And you've crafted like some new, well, they're not new because you knew them all along, but almost like new ideals and rules for yourself. And even, you're working on like a kind of like a new nutrition, like theology that worked for you. How much, like you've lost, probably noticeably to everyone, and they're not really sure why, but you've lost a ton of weight. How much did you lose since that conversation, or since you started making changes?
About 30. Let's see. I mean, it's a moving target because like after weightlifting, I was in my 280s, and then
that's crazy.
I hovered around the 250s for a while. Probably when you came out, I was in the 250s.
Yeah.
And then sometime like after I had 3 kids, I settled into like somewhere around like the 240s. And so I think I'm probably down about like 35 pounds.
Yeah.
But of like body composition changed big time.
Yeah. What did you do in like your exercise? Like what changes did you make in your fitness?
Well, I started doing something first of all. Like that was the first thing was, I just came up with this strategy of like, okay, I don't need to stick to every single thing I write on a spreadsheet. I need to like carve out a plan and then just make sure I do something on that plan every day. Like just never do nothing. That was the whole cornerstone of the program is, okay, if I write myself an upper body pull workout today and I get so busy with work and life and all that stuff, just, if I can do 2 of the rounds that I program instead of 4, if I can do, maybe I shave off some of the rounds of the conditioning, like that's fine. Don't beat yourself up. Just get done what you can get done. And then gradually like things become easier and you're able to do more in less amount of time, and you prioritize it more and you get this momentum, and that's basically where it started. And then just kind of carving out a diet that made sense for me, in terms of, the things that as an athlete we do, and I've always done is, take your protein, peg that to your lean body mass. Your fat ratio should be in line with your protein. So like, I eat 80% of the total protein calories I'll consume, and then fat, and then use carbs as the rudder. But then the one thing I did different this time was I instead of just doing like, oh, you have a cheat day, like really structure the program so that there were some days that I was spending in a deficit, some days I was spending in a maintenance, some days I was spending in a surplus, and structuring that so they weren't wild swings. But, if I was eating, 2,500 calories a day as kind of my basal metabolic rate plus my energy allowance, then, maybe a 500 calorie deficit or a 500 calorie surplus, and just structure workouts around those things. And I just had fun, like eating to energize, and, just enjoying being in the gym and lifting again. So it was the byproduct of all of that. And now like getting a core workout with you or doing some accessories with you, it's just, we did power cleaned yesterday together, like that type of stuff. Like I've just found my passion for it again. So,
hey guys, Wes here. Wanted to take a minute to thank one of our sponsors, California Strength. If you're looking for some awesome weightlifting program that happens to be exactly what the team and I follow here in the gym, head to californiastrength.com. For a 15% discount, use promo codes WES15 for the club program and WESKITS15 for the elite program. If you're serious about weightlifting and getting better, join our team. So it's almost like if you have like a low activity day and you're in a position where you feel like you could eat a little less, you just go ahead and take a 500 calorie deficit, and that almost gets you ahead on the week.
Yep.
Because realistically, nutrition isn't what you do in a day.
No, it's what you do in the week, in the month.
And then a year. It's how many calories did you use this year versus how many calories did you eat this year?
Right.
And that's going to be your net improvement. So if you take those little 500 calorie victories, where you can, and then you can maybe lose 500 a little less than you're gaining it. All of a sudden now you're in a deficit all the time, and your momentum's in the right direction.
Yeah. And I think that going into a surplus, like, remind your body that, you know what, like, we got to process this stuff, like, get good metabolism, like, clear this stuff. When you're in a deficit, even if you're in a weight gain type structure where you're trying to gain weight, spending 1 day a week in a deficit, like, hey, maybe that triggers the body that, you know what, we need to continue our efficiencies with respect to nutrient uptake. There's a lot of this is anecdotal because, nutrition science is so freaking, unfortunately, fluffy and hard to study. But, we're gonna just release kind of a free kind of ebook type thing on just this conjugate style of eating, with all these other components. And then using, obviously, intermittent fasting to kind of govern your deficit days is an easy way to include that in the process.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a commonsensical like approach to nutrition. Like, don't eat like an ass, and there's a few like nuances with the the deficit day, and then only the 500 calories like plus day. But yeah, so it's just stuff that you should kind of know, that's reinforced, and then you do what you know is right instead of making the excuses.
Yeah. And make it fun, like gamify it, like using MyFitnessPal or using some sort of macro tracking app, and just like and have fun with it. I mean, I think that's the key. And you and I like to cook. You and I both like to grill and smoke meat and do that kind of stuff. So if you have some sort of culinary interest, I think that can help.
Is there anything you cut out or cut back significantly that really like helped you do this?
Well, I mean, what gets measured gets managed. So once you put yourself on a program, it's like you're naturally going to cut out the things that are not so good for you. So if you can automatically peg your protein to your desired lean body mass or your current lean body mass, then you only have so much room. You have, if you're eating 1,000 calories, let's say, of protein a day, and then you're trying to eat 80% of that in fat protein. So you're eating, 800 or 850, however you break it out into in calories of fat, then you only have so much room for carbohydrates. And the one thing that I think can all agree on is that any kind of refined sugar, processed carbs are not good for you, especially as we get older. Like as a 43-year-old male, like if I eat a bunch of carbs, especially like around bedtime, it's over for me. So I'll lay awake, for all night, just heart pounding, racing. So that's the other thing, like sleep quality. And I know you and I have talked about this, like sleep velocity and quality, just like so critical for me, especially with 3 young kids. It's like it's
kind of cool how it's like your body's like kind of synergistic with nutrition, rest, and exercise. So if you do these things right, then your cycle is always perfect. Like if you eat the right amount and you exercise the right amount, it's easy to go to bed. You'll get your 7-8 hours that you need, and you'll pop up, and your body will almost crave it again. But if you have a lazy day, you eat a shit ton of like bad food, you load up, like, I don't know, maybe you go to Hooters at 8 p.m. for all you can eat wings. Not that I've ever done something like that, but it takes away from your sleep. You feel like, okay, I'm eating like 4,000 calories worth of wings. I'm gonna be super recovered tomorrow. Well, heartburn keeps you up till 2. You wake up and piss 4 times because you had 19 Diet Cokes with your 42 wings, and before you know it, your next day's ruined.
But it doesn't stop us from rationalizing doing it the very next weekend.
Recovery, baby.
Man, what do you feel like? Yep, Hooters.
Oh, yep. I think that's kind of how it goes. But
oh well, are you excited for this? Tell me what you're feeling like as we go into the 13-month plan. So we have the anchor dates of the American Open, and then the Olympics, which is even weird to say that. Like, got these 2 things. So the American Open / Nationals will be the first time you've competed on American soil in 3 years.
Yeah,
that sounds crazy.
That was the whole reason I was really excited to do the Arnold is because I wanted to compete in the US again, and it's not as good. Like like being at Worlds is an awesome honor, and I love it. I love representing the country at that stage, but you know, being in front of other weightlifters in your own country, and feeling that support like in person is just like a whole new level, and it's so much better. So I'm actually really excited about the American Open. I'm excited about our timeline. You know, we've got a lot of time to get ready. This cycle, somehow you've pegged the 8 weeks off numbers, you know, right on just about. So it's actually feeling pretty good, and it's not as scary as I thought it would be. So I mean, I honestly I couldn't be happier, and that's like I mean, I feel like that is really hard to do. You know, I wasn't sure what it was going to look like, but I mean, it's just a testament to, you know, us being a pretty good team. You know, you know my numbers, and you competed, and you know how things feel when you take time off, and I feel like you just kind of like you nailed it with the numbers and the workload. It's a really it's a great program, and I mean, I'm excited to.
You should
get this thing
comment on
rolling again.
our biggest problem, though, is now total utter echo chamber groupthink between the two of us. Like, evidently, like I'm Wes's biggest fan, and he's a fan of mine, and so we don't have a lot of new ideas that come up between the two of us.
Yeah.
Is it a good idea? Yeah, heck yeah, it is. That's awesome. That's the smartest thing I ever seen.
We might need to get peer reviewed.
We do need some. We might need some peer review. And this came like crashing into focus when you wanted to maybe start crafting some of the accessory stuff, and then it would give us an opportunity to kind of talk. And I said, well, I'll write the accessory stuff for the team at large and the online program, and then you write what you think we should be doing with the accessories. And what happened?
The exercise selection was almost the same. We even had we were doing adduction, leg adduction work on the exact same day. The core and shoulder, I mean, it was crazy how many of the same exercises were thrown into this program, and even the days were matched up. It was a little ridiculous. So
yeah. So either we're both doing it right, or we're both doing it wrong.
Then I guess that's just how it'll have to be, I guess.
Our chips are in.
So you mentioned the yearly plan. You know, there's 2 anchor dates.
Yep.
You've also probably laid out the kind of the macro plan for the training cycles along the way.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
what do those look like, and how do you go about making a macro plan, and is it something that everyone that's coaching and programming should probably consider or think about?
I think without question. I mean, your challenge is going to be, you're going to have different anchor dates for different athletes, obviously,
Right.
but the idea that you work backwards from those anchor dates, and that you build plans accordingly, so that you're bringing about different adaptations at different times. And you can't just lift heavy every single day and expect to make progress, right? You have to have a certain amount of your general physical strength work done. You're squatting, you're pulling, you're pressing. You have to have your technique work done. You have to have your specific strength work done, because we know that no matter how much you squat and deadlift, you could still have a tough time holding positions in the snatch.
Right.
You have to have specific strength involved. And then you have to tie that all together into, what we call the realization cycles, where you're just figuring out how to get your body to make these big attempts and create neuromuscular adaptations at the high intensities. And so, I mean, having a plan, I like to just start from the anchor date and work backwards, and maybe think about what you want your athlete to accomplish at that anchor date, and then work backwards into a training plan for how to get him or her there. And then just dial it in terms of, we have every single week broken out, and how that week fits into which training phase, which mesocycle, and then which microcycle. And so you can just start from a 30,000 foot view and just kind of focus all the way down into the daily view.
So it's not, I think the mistake that athletes and coaches might make is okay, my athlete, or I'm weak in the snatch, I need to snatch more right now.
Right.
Yet you're not competing for 6 months.
Right.
You know, so what does this snatch PR mean if you get it in 6 weeks? You know, now you hit your big snatch a month and a half into your 6-month training. Is that snatch gonna be there? Can you maintain this trajectory? You know, it's not just about hitting the numbers, it's about hitting them on the platform and hitting them when your body's, you know, ready to
Right.
as well, you know, after you've logged the reasonable attempts. And I feel like, you know, I feel like we've always done a good job with that. The way that we work into the training programs and we get ready for the competition. You know, we don't just try to get good at weightlifting.
Yeah.
We try to compete well.
Right.
Which I think is a very Cal Strength unique, and it does take a little discipline and frustration. You know, like right now things are light, and in all our volume cycles, the weightlifting's not very good, and it's scary and it's frustrating. But I think having a good coach to pull you back and make sure you're disciplined and understand the big picture, that's important. And that's also why it's important that you know you have the big picture. You know, because if you know exactly what we're doing and why, and I'm pissed that I am missing 150 in the snatch, you can remind me, hey, it's okay. We're gonna snatch here and here, and then you're really going to be ready for it by this date, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think having just the plan in place and being able to defend and just give people some foreshadowing as to how they're going to feel and what attempts they might be making and when, and you know just how their body's going to respond to the training in a given time. Like once you can nail that stuff a couple times, then that's how you really, from a coaching standpoint, that's how you build rapport and trust. And so at the end of the day, like that's just, you know, so critical to have your athlete trust you, and for you to be able then to trust your athlete to make the attempts that you're putting on the bar in competition. Because, you know, it obviously is no fun having an athlete go and you travel all the way across the country or across the world like we've done several times and have your athlete not perform. Is like
Right.
that affects the coach, you know, just as much as it affects the athlete. I mean, so yeah, just it's fun to be on the same page, and it's just takes some upfront work. And if you're willing to do that upfront work, it just makes the whole process so much more enjoyable.
Yeah. You kind of, you mentioned it earlier. We talked about, I'm going to the American Open.
Yeah, you are.
That's our plan.
We're going to the American Open.
Right. So that's what I want to bring up next. You've not coached nationally in
Yeah.
a long time either, and
I
like
know.
taking
You're probably going to get timed out of an attempt or two.
So you've got a little weightlifting team that you want to
Mike
show
and
to the world.
Piros. I gotta bring them with me, and I don't know how to operate in the back room by solo.
So what's the what are we doing for American Open? And you know, what do you think about you know, you've got some athletes in the gym that are eager to compete and eager to represent California strength, and we've got some old guard that's, you know, not going to be able to compete maybe this time around. So what do you think about the new team, and what's the plan for the American Open?
I'm super excited about this American Open. I think we're going to come out in force, and just like, I think that we are going to dominate this weightlifting competition. I mean, we have obviously our more traditional international competitors, and you and then Christian going to be there with us, on top of like all of our up and coming lifters. Like I'm obviously very excited about Madison Pinnell. But we have some remote athletes that are kicking butt too. You know, so
A lot of 109s.
yeah, we're you know, watching Jake kind of come full circle, and you know, I know he's going to put together a platform PR at American Open. I think that, you know, we might have, you know, Rob Blackwell will maybe you know, put that baby down for a minute and come and snatch a little bit and clean and jerk, and maybe bring him out. But you know, having Jason Starks there as he might not lift, but he'll definitely be, you know, coaching. Like it'll be a great multi-generational representation of Cal Strength. And I mean, I sit back and I'm just proud of everything we've accomplished, and like the people that are part of this place and have left a legacy. You know, we haven't always been perfect in terms of, you know, what we've done, but in the end of the day, like we've done a lot of good positive things for the sport, and I think this is going to be just a massive showcase of this multi-generational team at the American Open, and hopefully we just go and just everybody ball out.
Our first nationals and American Open together both were very fun meets. We had big teams,
Yep.
a lot of people. We were getting some meals, hanging out, and it's just it's an experience. It's a lot of fun to go and to do those things together as a team, and it definitely is it's kind of like a bonding experience too.
Totally. You remember you're a part of something special.
Yeah.
You're a part of something that's been around for like 15 years now of like producing weightlifters, and the weightlifters that we're producing just keep getting better and better and achieving it on bigger and bigger stages. And it's expectations have shifted. And I mean, I think that's true of the country at large, but I think we've been a part of that. So super, super exciting to see the young people buy in, and guys like you mentoring some of the younger people too. Like, like watching how Madison takes cues from you and takes direction from you. It's like, that type of stuff makes me so proud that we built something that's sustainable, where like the messaging is going to continue on, you know, and I think that's particularly awesome.
It's been cool to transition from the new guy and learn the Cal Strength way. And I feel like I've been able to study your programs and
contribute to them and change them. You've
right.
changed them a lot. You've been instrumental in that.
And the like learning the technique models, going to your level 1s, level 2s, like just been so much. It's been such a good experience, and it is. I feel like it's my duty to share it, but it's really easy to share too. It's like it's something I want to pass into all the weightlifters that come into the gym that want to be on the team. I want everyone to know and understand what I've been able to learn the past years. So it's an honor to be able to share. But while we're talking about multi-generational 15 years of California Strength Excellence, do you have any old team stories that maybe haven't been shared that you'd like to tell? Maybe some of them may not be appropriate.
Yeah.
So
all the ones that I have,
stick to the clean version.
Those are going to be for me, and I'll reveal them on my deathbed maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, the Cal Strength lore runs deep and wide, and everybody has an opinion about us. Some of it positive, some of it not so positive. But you know what? At the end of the day, like, people hate on the freaking New England Patriots too all the time. So I still think they've done a pretty good job, and history will be the judge of what we've done here. Like, look back 20 years, if people are still talking about us, then maybe we've done something pretty good.
For sure. So, you've been programming for what, 10 years now?
Yeah, some 12 years. 12 years has been here. I don't know.
Yeah. So where did you learn to program? Who, like, are there any like inspirational mentors you had, or people that you learned from that you would suggest aspiring coaches or athletes to read or also learn from?
For sure. But I mean, the first thing is you learn from everybody. Like, there's nobody that you are so much smarter than that you can't take something from, right? So be open-minded and listen, and then keep your own counsel, have your own ideas, but certainly like try and learn and understand what other people are doing, and don't be so arrogant that you have all the answers. It's amazing like how many people are convinced that what we're doing is wrong, or what we're doing sucks, or this and that. Like, people have a negative opinion right off the bat of so much that they don't understand. Especially those that have never really accomplished anything or produced anything, right? They have the strongest opinion. But I would say that obviously Abadjiev influenced me a great deal early on. The idea of the Bulgarian system and hyper specialization, and being able to essentially create adaptations that you don't necessarily think or know are possible. So just holding yourself to a standard of like this irrational like optimism with regard to what's possible, and then I use that with you guys all the time. It's like, and people call it my little reality distortion field. Like, I will will things into existence that I think ought to be.
It's true.
And that just keeping in mind that physiology, kinesiology, like human beings in general, like their psychology, everything's not as neat and tidy as you want it to be. So it's like spreadsheets sometimes are irrelevant. They're helpful, but sometimes they just are totally irrelevant because the human body and the human spirit are capable of doing things that are quote unquote miraculous, you know? But so the Bulgarian system taught me about, you know, blowing away expectations and not being overly concerned with, you know, what's possible. Because sometimes miracles do occur. The Russian systems, you know, like everything from Medvedev to Roman to Verkhoshansky, you know, those guys that really were students of movement and loading principles and all the things that we know today to be called sports science. Like those guys, you know, if you're not reading them, you're missing the boat. So go back and read the old Soviet texts. Um, um, and then, you know, for me, I think one of my most influential uh, figures in programming was me and Glenn Pendelay just having conversation after conversation in the gym every day. You know, as I was trying to run the business and build the business, and I charged him with building the weightlifting team. You know, we had such great dialogues, you know, all the time, late into the evening about programming strategies and what we were going to try and different things. And so I think we had a tremendous kind of brewing of ideas that a lot of the current Cal Strength system probably was shaken out of those dialogues.
Rob actually has talked about that to me a little bit about like you guys would launch a new program. You know, now we have our system and we have our Cal Strength system that we pretty much always go to. But he talked about, you know, that you guys would run like a Chinese method just to see, you know, what they're doing, or you'd run like a Russian training protocol and see how that works, and just you tried all these different stimulus. It was like a science experiment.
It was a huge collection of anecdotal data for sure. I mean, we just we did try a lot of different things, and yeah, there were some human rights violations here with the athletes that I'm not particularly proud of. There was lots of experiments that were levied, but all for the greater good.
Yes.
But yeah, no, we were not too proud to like say, hey, you know what, we don't really understand this, we don't know why this works, we think this is going to work and do this, and then we would try it and then evaluate the results. And so there was a lot of trial and error, and that's the long answer that nobody wants to hear is that, you know, to be a great programmer, to be a great organizer, it just takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have you know, you have a responsibility to at least understand enough about physiology and kinesiology and psychology to be able to build a program. And you have to have enough, you know, information that's already out there from, like I said, the Bulgarians to the Russians. But then from there, it's just you building something that works in the context of your culture with your athlete population.
Yeah. And I think, you know, that's exactly what you said earlier is don't assume you're too smart to learn from anybody.
Yeah.
You know, try some things and reasonable things, you know, use your own knowledge and, you know, make sure it makes sense, but try some things and experiment and see what actually works. And because that's the only way to really know what's best and to know what's best for different people even.
Right.
And then be courageous enough when something fails to like, okay, we got to toss that out and build something else.
Yeah. That's the hardest part, is to know when to push that abort button. Like, no, we got to change gears. Like this is not working, because like I've always said, it doesn't matter how beautifully articulated your system is. If it doesn't produce results, it's wrong. Like plain and simple. It doesn't matter how much you can use rhetoric to defend and spreadsheets to defend what you're doing. If it's not actually having the desired result with the athletes, then it's wrong. So throw it out and start over.
I think that's what they do in science.
Yeah.
Is that science?
I don't know. I've never been a scientist.
We're just muscle dummies, but
Sports,
I think that's a science.
Yeah. Bro science, maybe. But at the end of the day, like I think, you know, sports science, like you can have, I started Cal Strength, or our LLC, Molecular Kinetics, with with a PhD from Cal Berkeley, who was one of the smartest guys I've ever met,
Yeah.
but in terms of like being able to coach and train somebody, like he could never do that, but he could look at my programming and then pick out the whys behind a lot of the stuff at a granular level that I couldn't even like think about. I can use an iPad, I can use an iPhone, I can use Excel database very well, but I'm not building any iPhones, iPads, or computers.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy, right?
Yeah.
And so you don't have to know how to build one of these things. You don't know how need to know how it works to perfection to really be useful with it.
Yeah.
So I think coaches are also, they get hunkered, they get kind of paralyzed by like, there's so much information. How the heck am I gonna ever learn all this? Well, you don't have to know all of this. You have to know the basics to be able to be useful and helpful to an athlete.
If you maintain those athlete relationships, then you can hear when you're making a misstep or when something's good, and continue to build. And I think that since I've been in, there's probably only there's one time we pulled the ripcord on a program, and we had just started the we had upped the sessions in our accumulation cycle. We'd upped the weightlifting sessions and the accessory sessions.
Yep.
And we did it for accumulation, and it was a hard accumulation, but it worked great. And then we're on our transmutation, so we're getting ready for Pan Am Championships, and I think we're about halfway through this 6-week program. I was like, man, my weightlifting feels off. I'm not sure about it, and maybe a longer just competition prep cycle would get us where we need to be.
Yep.
And we pulled the ripcord at 4 weeks. We did another week of it, and then we started honing the weightlifting skills. And we show up to Pan Am Championships and hit PRs and Pan Am records. And I mean, it was our best competition that we'd put together. And I'd never been in better shape. And that was just,
and you were never more scared, like from probably 6 weeks out of a competition too. Like, I'm not ready. I gotta,
right.
That's the other thing. Like if you really train hard, like from that transition from like somewhere between halfway between a transmutation and realization, you probably are going to be a little nervous that things are not lining up fast enough. But like you said, like, you need to PR on the platform at the competition, not 4 weeks out or 5 weeks out.
Yeah.
And that's, the timing of those things matters. But that's know your athlete, listen to your athlete. And then obviously you have to be strong enough to keep your own counsel when that we're on the right track, because athletes are obviously going to be persuasive.
Especially when I don't want to do like 3 cleans and a jerk after.
Yes.
Or,
we can always count on some pushback there.
There's a few things I'm always going to look at on the spreadsheet and put a big red X on that are never going to get thrown out. But like it's just the perfect example. Like you're like, you were at practice, you see how it's going, and then I just put my chips on our new 6-week realization cycle.
Yep.
And you crafted something amazing, and we got ready in the 6 weeks, and it was my best shape I'd ever been in.
Yep. Well, up until this Olympics, it's going to be.
You're gonna do it all over again.
We're gonna shock the world.
Man, I can't wait.
Well, maybe at this point the world won't be shocked. They'll just maybe people just expect us to go and do well.
We'll see, and we'll train hard, and we'll definitely be ready for it.
This marathon qualification process was not easy on any of us. So that was like
another year onto this quad.
I mean, this is fine. Now we know exactly where we need to be, and like before, like competing. I mean, there was a time when we were in 4 continents in 6 weeks. Like that was crazy.
Yeah.
We were in Peru, we were in Thailand, we were in Europe somewhere, I can't remember, Rome. And the United States. Like we literally had foot on continents, 6 weeks, 4 continents, and it was like, I remember coming back from Rome, like, and you were too, like we were just exhausted.
When we're trying to come in the gym and prepare for the Arnold, button heads, like just irritated over it. Just tired. We were tired as hell. But now we've got all this time. I'm excited for the next year.
And a new podcast.
Yes.
Hey,
also thank you for supporting the podcast,
Oh, heck yeah.
which is now going to be the Be Somebody podcast powered by California Strength.
So is the strategy we're going to we're going to launch some of this stuff on YouTube, and then
Yeah.
you're going to have the podcast on your website, and then
Yeah, so California Strength
Cal
YouTube
Strength
channel's gonna host it.
entrepreneurial spirit survives.
Yeah, so man, thanks
Stronger
for doing
together.
that. We appreciate it.
Of course.
We're gonna keep trying to do cool podcasts and represent the gym well.
We're going to keep selling programs so we can support things like the Be Somebody podcast.
All right, man.
See, so it all comes full circle.
I guess on that note, we should wrap up our first of many.
Yes, hopefully that was reasonable, but appreciate you.
No problem, man.
Thanks,
All right.
Adam.
See y'all.